Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my speculation for Avatar at New York Comic Con 2025. So this is going to be realistically our next chance for big-ish news about all things Avatar. We definitely expect some news to come out of this, it's just will it be anything big? So let's go through everything that we have here. So straight away, the convention is coming up in just a couple of weeks. It's going to be October 9th to October 12th. Notably, this means we're going to basically pass the kind of pretty big milestone of we're finally going to get to a year to go, and this time it actually feels like it's actually going to be a year to go, because the release date and the fact that they put the logo out with this release date makes it feel a little bit more concrete than anything we've had before. So it's a somewhat notable milestone. We're going to have 3 panels here like SDCC. There is going to be a big Avatar booth, so to show floor presence, and they're really highlighting multiple voice actor signings / photo ops throughout the event, because it's still part of the big 20th anniversary for Avatar. So let's go through the panels just in terms of core information. Obviously, a lot of the descriptions for these panels is pretty basic and to the point, and not maybe super representative about what actually will be at the panel. But anyway, the first panel is coming up on October 9th, so the first day of the convention, 3:30 p.m. New York time. The Merch Nation Avatar Legends action figures and games. Same description as Comic-Con, but again, remember at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, we didn't learn what happened in like 90% of this panel. We saw the news about the UA Magic the Gathering card that they announced there. We got the most minor sense that like they were going to talk about toy stuff, but no one covered it because there was a big rush on the panel from basically Magic fans hoping to get free cards, scalpers and stuff like that. It meant that it didn't really feel like any Avatar fans really made it into the room to report on what actually happened. Hopefully this time we actually get some information out of the panel room and find out what the actual merchandise announcements are for Avatar. Because it does say, all new toy and game lines for the next year with exclusive reveals. It says exclusive reveals, and as we'll get into, there's not been a lot of communication about a lot of merch, so it'd actually be very cool to find out what happens at this merchandise panel. Then we have the publishing panel, which is going to be the second day of the convention at 6:30 p.m. Water, Earth, Fire, Air, continuing the Avatar Legacy panel. Abrams, Dark Horse, Webtoon, and Magpie, exact same description like it always is. It doesn't tell you anything specific about what it's actually going to be. We know Cara O'Neill, James Mendez-Hodez, Judy Lin, and Randy Rabai are going to be at the panel, and maybe someone else, we have to wait and see. So obviously that's going to be Dark Horse represented here, Magpie Games here, and then the 2 authors are Abrams' books, of course, so City of Echoes and Reckoning and Awakening of Roku. The last panel, the big panel, the 20th anniversary panel, is the final day of the convention, October 12th at 11 a.m. Notably, it is on the main stage at New York Comic Con. It's not in some random room or one of the kind of big rooms. It's the main stage. So there is a lot of kind of hype in a way on this because of the 20th anniversary, because Avatar Studios is next year, and because it's New York Comic Con. So 20 years, the whole the situation with that. And yeah, it's the voice cast, so we got Aang, Sokka, Toph, Zuko, and notably Mae Whitman is going to be here. She couldn't make it to San Diego, but she is here. The interesting part of this is we do have co-creator Brian Konietzko, but they don't mention Mike DiMartino. So only one of the co-creators is going to be here, which I think sort of makes sense because this is the convention that they would have to travel to. San Diego Comic-Con is sort of the local convention for anyone who works at Avatar Studios, basically. So New York is actually the one they have to travel to. So I kind of get only sending one of the creators out here because, it in a way almost highlights that, well, why are you only sending one of them out here? And if there is only one of them, well, I guess maybe they feel they have to send one of them out here for some sort of an announcement. We'll have to wait and see what the full situation is. Janet Varney. Obviously, notably, it doesn't mention news, but again, remember we did get news at the San Diego Comic-Con panel, and its description also didn't mention news. So that doesn't really mean anything. But it's notable. Otherwise, all the descriptions for this were only mentioning voice actors. So now that we know Brian Konietzko is involved in this, it is pretty exciting. And again, that separate description comes from the kind of big press release that they put out ahead of New York Comic Con, highlighting what the plan is overall. So, here's the plan for like the daily booth activities and the fact that they will have a big show floor presence like San Diego Comic Con. Interestingly, they only mentioned the merchandise and the anniversary panel. So they're still not really mentioning the publishing panel, even though it's there. So that is kind of interesting. But anyway, there is some other stuff going on if you go through the actual list on the New York Comic Con website, where you can see it's the merch panel, then there's a photo opportunity kind of signing with the voice actors, then you have the publishing panel, then there's another kind of opportunity with the voice actors, and then there's another one, anniversary panel is here, and so on. There's also a fan meetup and stuff like that. So you can see there's actually a lot of stuff happening here. So very, very equivalent to San Diego Comic-Con here, which is, I think, interesting and hopeful, I think, for what we're about to do. So let's jump into speculation. I'll start with the merchandise panel. There won't be a lot to say about this, but the assumption will be that, like the last panel, it's apparently going to be a Jazzwares and probably Magic the Gathering focused, though there probably will be stuff about the other makers. But interestingly, we're in a spot where like we don't really know who a lot of the other merchandise kind of makers really are these days, just because there's not a lot of coverage or really details about like when stuff does and doesn't get announced. So really, like Jazzwares, because they have a full toy line coming out, is the only one we really know a ton about. And then Magic are so public about like everything that they do that of course the Avatar Magic set is going to be kind of exciting. Though when it comes to Magic, they're in a weird spot where the next big reveals for the set are coming on October 28th. They're doing their big debut stream, which is effectively going to kick off spoiler season for the full Avatar set, where at this stream and then in the day, kind of the week following, we're going to get the reveal of the full set. So basically like a week after this, we should know everything. So obviously, a lot's going to be kept back for this and reveals afterwards, but I'm guessing they won't miss an opportunity to have some sort of a reveal at the panel. So at least maybe one card, maybe a really notable card reveal you can maybe see happening. Something that they haven't showed off before would be kind of interesting. Jazzwares, of course, do need to highlight some stuff. They need better communication. Obviously, SDCC, this panel, no information came out. To this day, I still have no clue what actually happened at the rest of the panel, even though, again, there were apparently reveals, but I don't know if there were any. The problem with Jazzwares is that, like, some of the stuff is out in America already. Admittedly, it's a bit of a kind of test or, like, early launch. Mostly in Target, I think, and it's not even the full Wave 1. But nowhere really has the listings for the stuff up yet. Like, bits and pieces you can find on different sites, but there's no, like, full website that just has, here's all the collector's figures, here's all the other figures, here's the little elementals, here's the other line of kind of blind box figures, here's the chibis. When is all that stuff going to actually get announced? And then, of course, we're getting to the point where we're relatively close to like the official launch of the line, which is apparently meant to be in October/November everywhere. Yeah, what is Wave 2? What is the follow-up to Wave 1? Like, what's going on here? I want to see the wave breakdowns for what's going on here. And then in terms of like bigger stuff, because the Jazzwares toy line has like Avatar Legends on the packaging, Korra should be on the table. Certainly movie stuff is on the table. We know they're going to do movie stuff, but will they mention or tease it? It's probably too early to show anything, but it would be interesting to see coming out of the panel if they directly mention that they are going to be doing movie merch. But that's that. Otherwise, like, I just don't know a lot of the other kind of manufacturers. Like, I assume stuff like the Nendoroid Zuko will get mentioned, but like anything beyond that, like the one-off items that specific companies have, I don't really know. So, you know, there could be some interesting stuff here just because merch is never really the most focused on topic for Avatar. So it'll be interesting. Then we go into the publishing panel, and this is where we definitely need some announcements. The schedule is not really particularly filled in. Of course, the rest of the year, we know what's happening for the rest of the year, but for 2026, we don't really know what the plan is. So let's get Magpie and Webtoons out of the way. I'm not really expecting any news from them. They're at the panel. There's a person from Magpie there. There might be a person from Webtoons there, but what really is there to say? With Magpie, it really feels like, for me, we're in a situation where it's announced something about the Spirit World book that you announced like years ago. Are you actually going to do it? What's the progress on it? How's this working in relation to Voyage of the Unity, which is mostly being done by a different company? Because Voyage of the Unity is still a really long way away. I think it's scheduled to ship like October next year. Like, really long time away. Massive gap between RPG releases. And if they don't have, like, in a way, a follow-up by actually announcing what's coming next, I don't really know what the idea really is. They need to say something sooner rather than later, because the communication has dried up, I think, pretty recently. With Webtoons, the only thing I can think of is that, like, hey, do you have a date for when Turf Wars and the other Korra comics are coming to the platform? Otherwise, the only thing I think anyone really cares about with Webtoon is, hey, do you have a plan to ever release original content on the platform? Are you actually going to say anything about that? No? Yes? Who knows? So let's get into the actual publishers where we expect stuff to happen. So Abrams with the novels, of course, we know two of the authors, Judy Lin and Randy Rabai, are going to be at the convention. But they're in an odd spot in terms of timing, where City of Echoes is going to have been out basically like 3-ish months by the time this book hits. So there's not too much in a way to talk about with City of Echoes directly. So Judy Lin, does that maybe suggest that Avatar Legends Book 2 might be also written by her, so she can talk about that? Or is it just, hey, City of Echoes is out? So what's going on? They already got to talk about it basically at San Diego Comic-Con, so what's different this time? Awakening of Roku is the opposite situation, where it's still a few months away, coming out right at the end of December. They have the cover out, they gave us at least a brief description at San Diego Comic-Con, but we don't have the full description yet. If you go to a website listing for this book, it still has a super placeholder listing that has no details. When are we going to get the full multiple paragraph description for this book? It'd be a weird panel reveal to do that, but I'm guessing the listings maybe should update in tandem with the panel, maybe. So they're in a weird spot where the obvious books, I'm not sure how much there really is to talk about. So in terms of new stuff, yeah, they kind of need to announce, I think, what's up next, which the most obvious announcement would be Avatar Legends Book 2. So the follow-up effectively to City of Echoes, though follow-up is probably not the right word, it's just Book 2. Because the whole idea of this is that it's like unsung heroes in theoretically any era. We can switch to Korra era. We know Legend of Korra is mentioned in the description of this series, so Korra's on the table. We don't know how the other eras are going to be incorporated in. But this book should be the July book for 2026, as in, as we head into San Diego Comic-Con next year, this will be the book on the shelves at that point in time, assuming the schedule is working out kind of perfectly. And again, this is your one big opportunity to announce it, because the next big convention is San Diego Comic-Con next year, when it will likely be out. So if you don't announce it here, it's just going to get announced via listings, and that's never the most exciting way to properly reveal your book. So, yeah, different eras should be on the table. Legend of Korra feels like they're almost teasing the idea that there for sure will be Korra in this series at some point. I don't really know what character they're going to pick. It's because no one predicted Jin as the first book, so it's hard to think of an equivalent character for Korra. Now, obviously, the idea of the series is it's not just unsung heroes. It's unsung heroes who were sort of inadvertently involved more than you would think in a major event in the world. So there's a bunch of big events that happen during Korra. I can definitely see writers wanting to tell a story in Republic City, because it's such a big, grand city, kind of defining of the Korra era. Telling a story in a different region of the city while other stuff is happening could be kind of interesting, but we'll see what they do. With Chronicles of the Avatar, they're in an odd spot where, because Awakening of Roku isn't out yet, I don't think they will announce the next book, but they're also in the same spot where, like, if they don't announce it here, is July next year at the next convention not relatively late to be announcing the book for the first time for December? Now, admittedly, this will be the first time where I'm guessing they properly know and have fully planned out ahead of time that Chronicles is now a December release. Assuming that's the plan, July, December every year with the two series. Could be a way to do it. Everyone assumes Karuk is going to be the next one because he's one of the 4 avatars before Aang. The other 3 series are, of course, about the other 3 avatars, so we complete that cycle. Also, we basically need a water avatar to finish the cycle of elements as well, so it makes too much sense. They haven't done too much in terms of like Karuk's early life, which is what this book is definitely going to be. And they've already teased the idea of like, we know who his team avatar is, so we can do kind of adventures with Karuk. Maybe they're not going to be as... They could end up being a little bit more just like 1 mission with the team, 2 missions with the team. But I think we'd be relatively fine with that, just to characterize everyone like a little bit more, see different parts of the world. That's kind of what we want the series to be. And then see what unique stuff they go into after Karuk with Chronicles of the Avatar. But again, I think I'd be a little bit surprised if they actually did this announcement ultimately. Dark Horse. So the comics. They've been in a rough spot just because like it feels like an eternity ago that Ashes of the Academy and Mystery of Pension Island came out, and that's purely because they released so early in the year, and then there really hasn't been much information on the comics full stop since then. Because we're in this era where it basically seems to take them a year plus to release a book, and they're one-shot comics, it just feels like everything is slower. And it means the hype for the comics is way down compared to what it needs to be. So they had an odd SDCC. They did technically announce 2 new books, but basically they kept the information secret, and only fan coverage let us know what was actually said at the panel. So my assumption is that they're going to be more public, like super public, about basically what they announced here with more details. And we'll see if they do anything more beyond that. So yeah, they did very early reveals. Yeah, they'll expand upon what they did there. So let's go through these. The first one was the next Korra comic. So they announced it. It's going to be about Kaya when she's younger, and this is the next one-shot comic. Effectively, book 2 in the Korra one-shot trilogy after Mystery of Pension Island. There's still going to be 1 slot after this, and we assume the Korra comics will continue into another one-shot series, but at the very least we know it's confirmed for 3 initially. So Mako, Kaya now, and there will be another one. I don't expect that to be announced here though. But we should get the information on this. If we don't, then we probably know that this comic is probably not as close as we think it is. Since the reveal at Comic-Con, we did find out that Alex Monique is on art, so I assume the team is the same as the Mako comic overall. But what we still need is, we need the title for the comic. So, you know, you'll note here, they basically gave us the cover, but without any of the text, and that includes what it's called. Like, is it Kaya Alone, or something equivalent? We don't know. Of the big one here, most important thing, release date. If they don't give us a release date, then they are nowhere with Korra comics, which is unfortunate. And then yeah, a proper description. So basically I think anything less than basically pre-orders going live, like in or around the convention, is going to be a bit of a rough situation for the Korra comics. They just need to make this happen. We need confidence in Korra comics to get them back on track. I want a release date that's probably February, March, April. February would mean it's a year on from Mystery of Pension Island, so at least they've got the scheduling down to a year. Obviously anything beyond February means that it's more than a year, and anything beyond April means it's like a year and a quarter. And it's getting to, this is a very long time to wait for one-shot comics. They are just, I think, taking too long to come out for how limited in scope they are. That I think everyone loves Alex Monique's art, but would probably prefer her to be used on much more important, meaningful Korra content. And with the one-shots, you probably need to get a really, really like efficient creative team. Like the one-shots need to, I think, be coming out pretty regularly if these are going to be the main comics. They don't really work as one-a-year things, is my general thoughts. I like them, but not as the only thing that we get. So we certainly just need a blowout on just like the book is basically up for pre-order as of New York Comic Con. That's what needs to happen here. The other book they announced on the Avatar side of things is a Kyoshi Warrior miniseries. Now, they didn't show a cover for this, but also it's in a bit of a weird spot where it's a different format for the comics than we've seen before. So we don't know so many things about this. What we do know is that it's a 3-issue miniseries. Now, we don't really have issues for Avatar comics. Issue is not the same as what you would call like a part 1 of a comic or one of the one-shots. Those books are all full graphic novels because of like their 72 pages. An issue typically for a comic is 20 to 22 pages. It's a monthly release thing. We've not really had that for Avatar comics, so it's a little bit of a unique thing seeing this actually get announced. Obviously, there's no date, there's no creative team, there's no info on what the kind of details / format of the miniseries is for Avatar. So all these questions come up. 1, does this replace Avatar one-shot comics? Are they separate? Will we get the announcement of a one-shot comic here alongside the miniseries? Is there a new creative team? The first question I think almost determines this, because like we could see the same creative team change over if it is a replacement. If it isn't, then it should probably be a new creative team. Then the big question is, are they standard single issue comics, so 20 to 22 pages each, releasing monthly, meaning for a 3-issue miniseries, we get issue 1 month later, issue 2 comes out, 1 month later after that, issue 3 comes out. So effectively over the course of like 2 months, we will get the whole series. But it also means that the whole series will be maybe, 60 to 66 pages, give or take. But then again, that's assuming they do the really, really standard comic release thing. They might be slightly longer issues. We don't know how Avatar's going to do them, because it's a new format. If they are kind of normal single issues, will there be multiple covers for each issue? That's usually the standard thing in the industry for standard comics that you get from your comic book stores, that there are variant covers. And that would actually be a cool thing for collectors to kind of have access to for like the first time, basically, ever. Obviously, we get different covers for like, library editions and stuff like that. But this is a slightly different situation where it's just an issue getting so many different covers. And yeah, how will a 3-issue comic be collected into the future? It seems like a short hardcover, assuming the standard format. Are miniseries a new regular release? As in, will we have another miniseries after the Kyoshi Warrior issues? Or is this a completely random one-off thing that they're doing? Because if they do it where it is a kind of series of miniseries, then you can see the idea that kind of like the one-shot comics, you can collect a few miniseries together into a hardcover to justify the big book, because you've actually got, across, say, 3 miniseries, 200 pages, type thing. That could be interesting. Yeah, so I would still like to see another book announced. I think it would be a little bit frustrating if all we got out of New York Comic Con is just basically what feels like the announcements we probably should have got at San Diego Comic Con of these 2 in more detail. I do want to see a new announcement as well, because they do have a whole year to fill out still before we truly get into Avatar Studios. So I want to see what the plan is. And I think knowing that they are also doing Avatar one-shot comics would be a nice thing to know. So I'd like to see that announcement potentially here. Same speculation as before. I think the likes of Sokka and Ty Lee are probably the go-to ones for next one-shot comics in terms of big characters who haven't had one yet. And we'll see where they go maybe from there. In terms of the other publishers, like Penguin Random House and so on, I would like to see them maybe show off Bending Academy Fire #2 in terms of the cover, give a sense for the release date, what the schedule is going to be for the series. Because again, they're short novels. How many is there in each kind of nation's Bending Academy? Are we doing 2, 3, 4? And then are they every 4 months, every 6 months? How many are we getting each year? I'd like to know the release cadence for this and a bit more of the plan overall. And then the big question that probably has to be asked is that with a year to go until the movie, Legend of Aang The Last Airbender, will there be any mention of any of the publishers' plans for movie tie-in books? We already know Penguin Random House do have plans for a variety of books. They plan to do the full usual kind of picture book style schedule of releases. for Legend of Aang: The Last Airbender. But it's probably a little bit too early for them to dive into this realistically. As in, if they do a publishing panel at SDCC next year, that's probably more the place where I think we'll be more getting into the weeds on that sort of stuff. But again, maybe some of these publishers mentioning that they are going to be doing books in the future, but they don't have any like announcements to make right now. I'd like to see those sort of statements perhaps happen. Then we get into the main event, what we hope is going to be the main event, the anniversary panel. So yeah, we went into the equivalent panel at SDCC unsure. And I think this is a really important thing to realize, is that a few months ago when we had San Diego Comic-Con, the reception was basically, I felt like, pretty much 50-50. Half of the fandom felt like there's no way we're getting news here, and then half of the fandom was sort of like hopefully optimistic, as in, no, surely it's time right now. And in the end, we got news, and they actually delivered ultimately at the panel. So surely we're positive going into this panel, but no. Just because like they don't mention directly that there is for sure going to be news. The fact that O'Brien is here, but not Mike, and then, you know, until recently we didn't even know O'Brien was going to be at the panel. There's little things that give you doubt, but you know, it's always the idea of just, we can never confidently predict what Avatar Studios are going to do. Anytime we assume that there will be news, it just doesn't happen for some reason. Anytime we're like, I don't think they're actually going to do news here, for some reason they do it then. It's sort of just frustrating overall. To me, the one thing I do look towards is just that, okay, Brian being at the panel is good. It isn't just voice actors on the panel. So in a way, when it comes to Brian, why is he here? Surely he is here for a reason, as the only kind of non-voice actor on the panel. That at some point they're going to turn to him and be like, hey, do you have anything new to show us? And I don't think they can really get away with just doing the basics again. Like just going back to, here's the logo for the movie, here's the image we showed of Seven Havens. It's been a few weeks, it's been a few months. Time has passed. This is a different event. What are you showing the people of New York? You know, everyone who's come to New York for this convention. A year to go until the movie. Like it feels like Brian is there to represent Avatar Studios to a certain degree. So, you know, in a way, they probably want him there so they can have like the social media video of him speaking as whatever reveal they do is made, like they did for the Seven Havens image. So that's maybe the thing here, because I don't think you have to have Mike there as well. Everyone knows they're both the co-creators, and they don't always have to be there as a duo at all times. And especially because this is the one that's a little bit further away from, you know, the studio, I think this does make sense ultimately. But again, the expectation, I think, is just that, hey, the door has been opened. This year, communication has properly started about the Avatar Studios projects. With the anniversary, you're tying into the anniversary the idea that next year, a bunch of new stuff happens as well. So you're already with the anniversary announcement, and you've announced Seven Havens with the press release for the anniversary. Then at SDCC, when you did a big anniversary thing, you did the visual for Seven Havens. Obviously, prior to that, they did the kind of relatively public announcement of the logo and new release date for The Legend of Aang: The Last Airbender. And again, they showed that at San Diego Comic-Con. They're talking about this stuff now, and it would feel weird if they suddenly stopped talking about it a few months on. This is also a big convention. This convention also has history in terms of big reveals from the franchise. And I believe on one of the recent podcasts, Brian even mentioned that actually showing one of the beginnings episodes at New York Comic-Con is one of his favorite convention moments from the history of Avatar. So that's a good sign in terms of like, okay, they don't view NYCC as just like a non-event. No, it's big. So yeah, it will be weird to miss a big chance to have Avatar in the news again. And that's kind of what you need to do. It's the 20th anniversary. You're hyping it up. What's a big way you can hype it up? By giving a teaser for the stuff everyone knows you're being really secretive about. That's the big thing to do. As for the rest of the panel, because again, the panel's not going to be all news. The reality of most of these panels across the board is that there's a ton of filler in all these panels to fill up the full hour. They rarely are packed full of content. And especially with this one, most of it is going to be voice actor chit chat, or I'm guessing voice actors doing readings, similar to what most of the SDCC panel was. Obviously, there was a uniqueness at SDCC because it was the voice actors doing the readings with Brian, a kind of new chibi art in the background. Are they just going to do that again? Because this is the kind of counterpoint to kind of what the rest of the panel is that it's not really that exciting that all the voice actors are here on this panel. The voice actors have basically, as a group, been attending like every convention this convention season. Like, it's not a particularly like new thing that like this group of voice actors appears at a convention for the first time. There's maybe a unique factor here because it's, you know, all of these voice actors plus Brian now, kind of like SDCC. But again, because you did SDCC, this grouping isn't that interesting just by itself. So what are you doing here to make this feel actually unique compared to the previous panel? And that's where like an actual announcement could be one thing, or just doing something a little bit different. In terms of a non kind of giant announcement, I'm wondering, will they announce the one thing that they haven't announced from the anniversary press release, the Chibi miniseries, which is going to be a YouTube series. We've not heard anything about this since February this year when it appeared on the list, the anniversary press release list. What's going on with that? Why not announce that here? Explain what it is. And then also, like, hey, this is an animated thing. Are the original voice actors who are at the panel involved with the Chibi series? As in, you've got the original characters, you've got most of the original voice actors. Are they voicing their own characters in this thing? Is it even voiced? Like, we don't know what the Chibi miniseries is. And given that, again, going back to here, look at the image here. Chibi. What did they do at San Diego Comic-Con? Narrate episodes with Chibi drawings in the background. So, like, there's a Chibi aspect to kind of what they're doing with the anniversary. So maybe that could be another announcement that they do as one of the separate kind of ancillary Avatar Studios projects, but we'll have to wait and see. So, finally, let's get to, if there is an Avatar Studios reveal, sort of equivalent to the Seven Havens image, what will it be for New York Comic Con 2025? Seven Havens, unfortunately, I think it would be weird if they did it again. I don't think anyone is really going into this thinking that, like, yeah, for sure, they're going to do another Seven Havens image. Unless they have a date to finally show off for this, and that maybe the date is a little bit earlier than we think, as in like maybe super early 2027, I'd be a bit surprised if they really talk about this much until like quite a bit into next year, realistically. Maybe maybe SDCC. If they do, and I don't think this is super likely, do another Seven Havens reveal, then my guess is probably just that you show the mirror, the other side to the first image, which is effectively show Pavi's twin sisters team, show Nisha's team to mirror the first image, show her cat monkey animal companion, show her mentor, and show her character design, maybe in a slightly different location, or maybe the same location, but it looks a little bit different, something has changed, and just get people talking. And you just have those kind of competing images in terms of like, yeah, this is what season 1 of Seven Havens is about. It's about these two twins who have this mysterious past, and they both have these teams, and they're kind of really linked, but there's so many mysteries about what happened to them years ago. That seems really, really interesting if they want to go down that path and tease the Seven Havens mysteries more and more. So there's that, but like I said, I'm not really super confident about more Seven Havens. I think we've got what we need for now. I'd be surprised if they had more 2025 info on Seven Havens. So if they actually do reveal anything, it kind of has to be about the Aang movie. It feels like it's time. Again, the convention is happening exactly a year to go. The first day of the convention is a year to go. By the time the anniversary panel happens, it's going to be the 12th. It's going to be 3 days later. But still, it's still part of the same convention, effectively timed perfectly with the 1 year to go. It would be nice to finally do that now that we're finally in the kind of quote-unquote year of release, kind of, in a way. I think we were all a little bit surprised that the announcement at SDCC wasn't a visual reveal for the first time for the movie. They gave us something by finally revealing that Steven Yeun is going to be Zuko's voice actor in the movie, but all they lent on was effectively the logo for Legend of Aang: The Last Airbender. So yeah, the only thing that really makes sense is the first official visual for the movie. So basically the movie equivalent to the Seven Havens image. If they don't do it here, then when are they going to do it? And again, keep in mind what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about a trailer, a full trailer or a teaser trailer. I am talking about a first official image that they're properly revealing publicly to everyone, that isn't leaked or anything like that. They have to do this at some point for the movie, because I would be a bit surprised if the first time we ever see like official revealed information on the Aang movie is it in animation or some sort of a trailer or something like that. So we're going to find out something about this before we're sort of like at that kind of 4 months to go big marketing push. So when are they doing it? Obviously, here's our first opportunity now to get it. New York Comic Con 2025, 1 year to go. Otherwise, it feels like the next big event is like, what, CinemaCon 2026? That's mid-April, so pretty far into the year. Like, there's no events like super early in the year, realistically. Annecy Film Festival is late June. SDCC next year is going to be late July. And we're getting to the point where, like, okay, SDCC, there's going to be stuff about the movie there. They're just going to be so close that there's no way they can talk about it. But it's probably close enough to the movie to where we already have heard a decent amount about it going into San Diego Comic-Con. As in, if we have to wait this long for the trailer, like, keeping in mind it's late July and then the movie comes out in early October, it's really only 2.5 months between SDCC and the movie's release. That's very late in a way to be putting out a trailer. So we probably will have the trailer already by this time, would be my guess. So maybe the trailer releasing in or around Annecy or just before Annecy. They could wait until CinemaCon to do the first visual, but the idea is, of course, are they going to miss the opportunity to say anything of substance at New York Comic Con? And what is the plan? Are they allowed to actually reveal anything this early on? Do they want to do anything this early on? It's just the fact that they are being surprisingly secretive about all things Aang movie, and that they really want to be careful about the first reveal of the presentation surrounding the movie. That might hold back the idea of what seems like the very obvious thing, but they don't want to do the obvious thing. I don't know. It's a tough one overall. But again, most of the marketing is going to be much closer to release. But there's going to have to be some stuff that just happens at the usual times. As in, you know, every movie, you're going to have some basic foundation stuff that you hear about it with a year to go, 9 months to go, that sort of thing. Before the big stuff starts to happen. What are they actually going to do? So yeah, Aang image, or unfortunately, I think there is the potential for no news, even though I think the conversation should be kept going with a reveal here. As for, like, okay, they do an Aang movie reveal. What should the image be? Realistically, I think they just need to do this, but, like, updated to whatever standard they now have. That's from, like, 2023. What does the 2025, 2026 designs look like? Is it the same? Did it look slightly different? Even if they wanted to cut that down to, like, here's just what Aang looks like in the Aang movie. There's the really obvious thing. You saved the proper reveal of Katara's design, Sokka's design, Zuko, Toph for later. You just reveal one character, the title character, I think that's fine. People just want to see an official visual for this thing. It doesn't need to be super revealing. It just needs to be a visual so that when we talk about this movie, we can actually open up an image and we're not just talking about the logo. That's really all that they need to do. And I think that's why I think like it shouldn't be too difficult for them, but it seems to be difficult for them. And that is the unfortunate thing that we go into with this, is that we should be confident that, yeah, New York Comic Con, after the Seven Havens reveal not that long ago, yeah, we should absolutely be expecting news. But I think, unfortunately, we just can't have the confidence in Avatar Studios that they're actually going to deliver. They might consider it to be, oh, it's too close to Comic-Con. We already gave them a reveal. We'll wait until the next time. And the problem is, when is the next time, obviously? But look, there'll be news coming out of the convention. I'd be really, really stunned if the publishing panel just doesn't deliver anything. Now, admittedly, you know, it's going to be just more concrete information on the Kaya comic and the Kyoshi Warrior comic, and there still could be disappointments, I think, surrounding them if they're, say, like, for instance, too far away, or not really what we want. I still feel there probably needs to be some other announcements there. Merch panel, it's such an unknown because we didn't hear about what the first one was, but that could actually be surprisingly interesting. And then I just think with the anniversary panel, it's the idea of, really, you're going to big up main stage panel and it's really just voice actor chit chat for all this time and maybe a recap of the information we already have? That's not good enough. I just think it's going to be disappointing if there isn't any news. As for if there will be, we just don't know. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are heading into New York Comic Con in a couple of weeks. What news do you think we're going to get from all three of these panels? I suppose mostly the final panel, the big panel. What do you think they'll do at the anniversary panel? Is Brian on his own going to reveal something to us? Will it be the first visual for the Aang movie? Will it be more Seven Havens? Or something different? Or nothing? What do you think? But yes, that has been the video. Thanks for watching and bye.